Good morning.
Oh, Pam, how are we doing on attendance here? Let me quickly run.
We are waiting on just a few more, but we do have a quorum.
We'll give it another minute.
Yeah.
Let's see. Down maybe a little bit. Good morning, Stan.
Yes, good morning, Betsy.
Oh, we're recording now. Okay, good to know.
All right, I think Matt Coleman is all we're waiting for at this point.
Yes, it looks like it.
Not to call him out or anything, but
Calling out Coleman.
all right. Well, it is 8:32. So let's go ahead and get started. I'll call to order the meeting of the Legislative and Human Resources Committee of the Kent County Board of Commissioners. We are holding this meeting by electronic media, and if you would introduce the method for that and the reason for that, Wayman.
Sure will. Pursuant to statute 15.263A1A, the Legislative and Human Resources Committee of the Kent County Board of Commissioners will conduct this meeting today via electronic communications to protect the public health. Any member of the public wishing to listen to the proceedings or provide public comment may do so by using the internet connection or phone numbers and passcodes, which are listed on the screen. Closed captioning is available via internet connection. Those wishing to provide input or ask questions in advance of the meeting regarding business to come before the committee may submit the input or questions to public comment at kentcountymi.gov. Anyone disrupting the meeting by using offensive language or actions may be removed from the meeting.
All right, thank you for that. Let's move to our first item on the agenda, which is public comment. If there is anyone from the public in attendance or listening to this meeting and you wish to address this committee, you may do so. Please unmute yourself and identify yourself, and you have up to 3 minutes to address. You see no indicated public, no hands, and Pam confirms there are no indications from the public. Okay, we'll move to item number 2, which is approval of the minutes for November 24 of 2020. Is there a motion to approve?
Melton approves.
Moved by Commissioner Melton,
Talon supports.
supported by Commissioner Talent. Any discussion? I see none. Pam, I think we do a roll call. Sorry.
Commissioner Hennessy,
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman,
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman,
Yes.
Commissioner Melton,
Yes.
Commissioner Ponstein,
Yes.
Commissioner Teal,
Yes.
Commissioner Skaggs,
Yes.
Commissioner Talon,
Yes.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Yes.
Chair Steck.
Yes.
That motion passes.
All right, excellent. We'll move to the next item, which is a performance measurement review report from Andy Thalheimer from Circuit Court. And I think I saw Andy on the line. So if you would go ahead and take control of the share screen and You may proceed.
All right, thank you. By nodding of the heads I can see, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Again, I am Andy Thalhammer, the administrator of the 17th Circuit Court. I bring greetings from the judges here over on Ottawa, especially the leadership judges, our Chief Judge Trusack, Chief Judge Pro Tem Judge Feeney, and our presiding judge of the Family Division, McNabb. Like I believe most of us, I would prefer to be in person, but here we are. So I think, Natasha, you're controlling the slides. Could you move to the next one, please? Thank you. Yeah, this presentation, I hope you don't mind. It's a look back at 2019. Who would have thought of all the changes between now and then? Seems like such a long time ago. But later on in the presentation, as I said, I hope you don't mind, I am going to move into a lot of the things we've done in 2020 just to kind of give you a more recent picture of how things are operating at the court. Thank you. Next slide, please. As the board knows, you have developed certain priorities and goals, which the 17th Circuit Court has incorporated into what we do. Hopefully this presentation draws that parallel to your satisfaction. Next, please. While our performance measurement packet gives a great bit more detail, I wanted to focus a few things on a few more specific goals. Our department of the 17th Circuit Court goals in general. Next slide, please. We handle a lot of cases over the 17th Circuit Court. I picked a few cases to highlight for you to see. They represent the majority of the filings that we have in the court. The first performance metric I'm looking at is our clearance rate or time to disposition for cases involving divorce with children in the home. Obviously, this is a case type that probably brings as many people to the court as any other thing when you consider that there are two parties and often children involved. SCAO has developed certain standards for time to disposition. I mean, once we get the filing, how long does it take before the case is actually disposed of? I'm going to highlight that measurement here over the next few slides. SCAO standard for cases involving divorce with children is that 97% of those cases will be disposed of within a year. That's under a year, 364 days. Again, their standard is they'd like to see 95%. In 2019, we were at 97%. So we did meet their standard and beat our own goal as well. Next slide, please. Criminal cases are our largest filing. We get more filings for this case type than any others, and it's what a lot of people think about when they hear the term circuit court. Our criminal cases have remained pretty steady. We saw when my tenure here began, we kind of kept seeing a few declines in our criminal caseload. That has stopped. We've been pretty steady with the amount of filings that we have. And we do a good job with them. Again, all felony cases, once they're bound over from district court and they become a circuit court case, SCAO recommends, or their suggestion is that 98% of those cases are disposed of within 301 days. As you can see, we're a little under that at 95%. A bit of a reason for that is that back in 2019, we actually welcomed a few new judges to the bench. And also our chief judge, Judge Trusack, also reallocated a little bit of judge time from the criminal side of things to help with the family division. At the time, our family division cases were growing at a high rate. So he actually reassigned one of the judges on the criminal civil side of things to have half of their time be with the family division. So that probably explains why we were a few percentage points short of getting our criminal cases up to that 98% that SCAO recommends. Next slide, please. Child abuse and neglect. Obviously, these cases represent some of our most vulnerable citizens. We have a goal of 85% of those youth that are in placement at the time of disposition. And in placement is an important distinction because that means a child that is not in the home. They have been removed. whether that be in a foster care setting or with another family member or somebody, but circumstances have dictated that that child not be in their own home. So obviously, we try to get to those cases as quickly as possible. In child abuse and neglect cases, there are many, many due process procedures that need to take place, as there should be. We're dealing with children and their families. So these cases can become quite complex and quite tricky. We were happy that we achieved our 90%, or excuse me, 91% time to disposition in those cases. Next slide, please. Okay, this is not necessarily something that the Supreme Court asks us to keep track of or does recommendations about, but it is something, a statistic that we are very happy with. And this statistic involves what many would call recidivism for youth that we have that we treat with our community probation program here in the county. We're at 10% of youth that once they're discharged have further delinquency matters brought to the court. For those of you who don't know, my job before coming to Kent County was working with the Bureau of Juvenile Justice in Lansing for DHS at the time. And part of my job was to go throughout the state and monitor and evaluate a lot of delinquency or juvenile justice programs. So I can tell you that personally, and my professional opinion is that 10% is just an outstanding figure, and it really is a testament to the hard work of the people involved in dealing with that population. And it should also be noted that here at the court, we divert many cases brought to us. If we have a first-time offender with a very, minor case, or, less than serious case, so oftentimes that we'll divert them with certain services. We don't just ignore the filing, but we will, kind of divert them and not necessarily take jurisdiction over them and saddle that youth and family with that court record. But these numbers represent the kids that we do take jurisdiction of. So either it's a multiple time offender, or a more serious case, or more complex issues present when we do our investigation. So that's a high performance measure that I do like to highlight on a regular basis. Next slide, please. And here's where I kind of turned over to 2020, our significant accomplishments. I'm sure we had many in 2019 as well, but it seems like forever ago to think of 2019, and I thought it might be more beneficial for this board to hear about some of the things that we've done more recently. First of all, what I call the Judicial Resources Report. This is not anything that we at the 17th Circuit are responsible for. This is work done by the National Center for State Courts, and every few years, the Supreme Court will make recommendations, or at least help courts decide, how heavily weighted their caseloads are. And the way this works is that back in, I believe it was 2018, every judge, magistrate, referee, quasi-judicial officer was given a form where they did a time study for, I believe, a full month. I believe it was the month of May back in 2018. And at the end of each day, they would go into the computer and they would log all their minutes that they spent, what type of case it was spent on, et cetera. All those numbers kind of got compiled by the National Center for State Courts. And what they do is they come up with, okay, this is how much time an average case should take, or an average case filing should take for a judge to do in our state. For instance, a retail fraud delinquency case is going to take a lot fewer minutes than a medical malpractice trial. So this is an idea to kind of figure, each different filing, how much it should take, and then you just add up the amount of filings that each court gets to decide, in an average court, how many judges it would take. Now, I bring this to your attention just to say that according to the 2020 Judicial Resources Report, Kent County would be considered an underjudged court. We are getting our work done. We are working hard to do it. And again, I just want to, I bring it to your attention to say the hard work of the staff and judges over here to make sure that that we're getting all our work done. Basically, if you did the math, each judge is doing the work of, 115% of a judge, or so to speak. And again, I just kind of want to point that out in kind of reference to some of the clearance rates or the time disposition numbers that we've set. Next is the Detention Residential Treatment Center. I wanted to bring this up again. The board was good enough to allocate money for the detention build out a few years ago. It's a beautiful facility, if you can call a juvenile detention center that. They did an absolutely fantastic job. One of the reasons for the build out was not only the age of the facility, but we were looking at needing more beds for one or two reasons. The first reason, what we have taken advantage of immediately, was to provide more residential treatment in our detention center. It allows families to stay involved with kids that might not be able to be home for a while for issues of concern for safety of the community or themselves. It's been a success. We've been doing it for a while with our Delta program. When we built the new the pod, we now have our Pride unit. So we have two pods. We would like to make a third pod treatment, but it's been a bit of a challenge with the pandemic going on. We have had some cases out there, both staff and youth. So it's just been it's been a very tricky year to do that. But it has been a success, and I did want to pass that along. The other issue coming up in October of 2021, the juvenile system will now be taking 17-year-olds, whereas before they were treated as adults. We're not exactly sure what that will mean, but it might obviously eat into the amount of beds that we actually need for detention. I mean, this was part of the plan when building it. So we are going to hopefully be able to continue to do both, but just as a heads up that 17-year-olds are coming to the juvenile system. Next slide, please. Zoom. 2020 has indeed been a crazy year. Our filings are down as a result of many things, but we have not been allowed, obviously, to be as efficient. I mean, not only does the governor have public health orders, the county has given public health orders. The Supreme Court has also bound us to restrict in-person hearings based on their order as well. You know, I know that a lot of people move to Zoom and a lot of people are doing this, so I don't want to call out the court specifically as being extra special with it, but I do want to call out the amount of people that were involved in making Zoom happen in all our courtrooms. Not only a lot of people here in this building, but it's just kind of a testament to how this group here can work together. I mean, IT, the administrator's office, the Supreme Court, the prosecutor's office, the jail has been, you know, running up and down to make sure that we have, you know, people ready for judges to do their sentencings. I mean, it's been a monumental effort, and I guess my own thought is that, you know, courts sometimes are a little slow to move with technology. For those of you that work with courts, probably understand that. So as quickly as this moved has been very impressive, and it's made our 2020 outlook a lot more encouraging with clearance rates and that type of thing. I mean, obviously we're behind. Obviously Zoom is not nearly as efficient. When you have interpreters involved, it's very, very difficult. So there's a lot of things that we're working through. It's certainly not perfect. In some cases, I think it's great. In some cases, we'll probably continue to use it. But by and large, it's not the ideal. So, but anyways, a lot of people really helped us, and a lot of our judges who are maybe not the most excited about new technology really embraced it. So I'm proud of the group over here for all the work that was done in a relatively quick time. Finally, in the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion, this topic has always been an important one, but it was obviously really brought to the forefront this year. We appreciated the county's leadership, specifically Wayman's town hall that he put together. We thought it was a very needed thing, a very helpful thing. And from there, we kind of took it to try and get to a few, maybe take a few next steps in this area. Specifically, among other things, but we hired a consultant to come and really help us look at our juvenile system and you know, is there disparate treatment among our juveniles? Specifically, we're looking at time of length of stay in detention, time, you know, that youth have to spend out of the home in residential treatment, that type of thing. Mr. Elam, who is the consultant, has come in. He's worked with our staff. He's worked with detention staff. He's gone through files. His report is not yet complete. I shouldn't say that. I believe the report is complete, but he wants to kind of vet it and run it through us to make sure, you know, where we're at. I'm assuming that there will be some changes or at least some discussion that report brings among the judges and the staff here. One of the immediate things that they did, and it seems kind of small and simple, but it's been very helpful, is we developed a coding system for our census for youth in detention, meaning that if a youth has been in detention for a certain amount of days, it'll be green next to that young man or young lady. If they get to a certain time, then it becomes yellow, and that yellow starts triggering conversations with probation officers, families, providers. You know, how can we get this youth out? And when it becomes red, then obviously I mean, I'm not gonna say crisis level. Some kids need to be in there for that long because we're waiting for a placement or waiting for the next step in the court procedure. But it really brings the focus as to, okay, why is this youth? Like I said, it seems like a small thing. We've always had the dates next to the youth of when they've been in there, but this has just been something that has brought our focus to the forefront. Like I said, that was kind of a quick practical thing that we did as a result, but there will be more coming. Next slide, please. Electronic filing. I feel like I bring this up every year. It's becoming an annual part of the presentation. I believe we were supposed to be up and running with SCAOs about, I don't know, I want to say 3 years ago. I believe October of 2018 is when we were supposed to be live with it. We still have not really started with SCAO. We have started to do some of our own things to make it that way. I actually, with the help of our HR director in the county, Amy Ralston, we repurposed a position here at the court that's going to be a project manager. This is one of the things just to provide more focus to look for, you know, ways that we can kind of go and do this. I mean, this pandemic has brought to, you know, a little more urgency with having electronic files, allowing people to work from home, allowing people to, not be so incumbent on the paper system. We have made some strides. I'm confident that we will make many more. Again, we were kind of waiting for SCAO, but it seems like we have to start moving in our own direction. One of those ways to do it is on the next is the guided interviews for self-represented parties. Now, this is a new program that was discovered by one of our staff here, Tricia Finney, where New Hampshire uses this quite a bit. It's called Turbo Court. And what Turbo Court is going to do for us is a few things. We've already started it with our personal protection order, and we're going to be looking to start it with our divorce cases next year. And it was actually a CIP request to pay for it for our divorce cases next year. It not only creates a electronic file and allows people to work from home and do some of these filings remotely, but some real value that kind of sets it apart from other programs that do that is the guided interview that it provides for our filers. So a lot of self-represented parties, obviously they're not used to it. They don't really know everything they're supposed to be doing. This kind of makes sure that all the questions that need to be answered are answered. It eliminated filing errors or improper filings in New Hampshire in some case types by 100%. We're expecting, obviously 100% is quite a goal, but we are expecting it to improve our processes quite a bit. Next, new judges and assignments. The end of 2020, actually January 1st, 2021 brings to an end the judicial terms of Judges Sullivan and Zemaitis, both long-term judges. They will obviously be missed. It is a big loss. However, we are well pleased with their replacement, Judge-elect Noto and Judge-elect Gottlieb. They've seemed to have been diving in. They've been over here to talk about staffing. They've been over here to talk about their dockets, how they want it to look. So we hope to hit the ground running as much as possible as you can with 2 new judges. But I also wanted to share a little bit of the docket, I guess, shakeup, for lack of a better word. Judge Sullivan is currently on the criminal civil side of things. His vacancy will be filled by Judge Elmore. Judge Elmore is currently on the family division side of things. She came to us from 61st District Court prior, so she has a lot of experience with both, obviously, with both family division and criminal civil. She's going to be moving to fill Judge Sullivan's docket, so she will be on the civil criminal bench. Her vacancy that she leaves with the family division will be filled by Judge-elect Gottlieb. Judge-elect Gottlieb is currently a referee here at the court, so she's very familiar with how things work here in the family division. So she will fill that slot. And then Judge Zamitis, who really has a heavy domestic docket with divorces, especially, will be filled by Judge-elect Noto. Those judges are aware of that. The judge-elects are aware of it. We are, like I said, we're designing our dockets with them in mind going forward. So I don't anticipate too many issues with it, but yeah, we were definitely looking forward to having them. And I know that our existing judges, which is also a nice thing to see, take a very active role in making sure that they can train the new judges. Our evidence-based risk assessment tools is the next item. We've been working this for a while now. We're starting to see results. This is just an objective measure for kind of creating the needs and strengths of the youth that we have on probation. And finally, I know my time is probably running short. Last year, I talked about our specialty courts that we were doing. We have a mental health court, we have a girls court, we have a truancy court, we have our specialized business docket. They continue to run well. We're happy with the results. And in 2021 early, we're going to be starting our juvenile mental health court, which is JTAS, Treatment and Support Court, which Judge McNabb will preside over. So that is it for my presentation. I'm sorry if I went longer than you planned, but that's it.
No.
I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
All right. Thank you, Andy. I think that you're right on schedule, so appreciate that. I suspect that there are some questions from commissioners. Comments? If not, you know, I stand way too close to the fire, so I could spend hours talking to you on things, but we'll give other commissioners opportunity.
Board
Commissioner
stack,
Melton.
our chair stack, thank you.
Yes.
Sorry, I can't get to my chat. I thank you for that report, Andy. It was very, very comprehensive, and certainly we are all aware that this year has been certainly a new learning curve on the more positive end. I have other words I can use for it, but I do want to just circle back very quickly when you talked about the new juvenile detention center and whether or not you could call it a beautiful building. I'm not trying to point out your wording as much as I think it's something that we do too often. Our minds get going, at least I should say mine does, and I think, okay, they've done something they weren't supposed to, and so therefore they should not be reaping the benefits of this, that, or the other thing. And yet these are our most vulnerable of our persons that are in our penal system. I think it's fabulous, quite frankly, that we would have them go somewhere where it is an environment that hopefully will allow them the chance to learn, to grow, to experience some positive things in their lives, so that when they leave there, they don't have to see what a true prison system looks like. So that's my 2 cents worth. Thank you for your report. Again, very well done.
Thank you. And just to respond a little bit to that, Yeah, I mean, it is definitely a detention center. There are locked doors, but
Right.
they've been able to put natural light. And the bottom line, the juvenile justice system is designed for rehabilitation. I mean, we do
Right.
want to allow for some successes, and we do want to show a better way. And yeah, and I think that facility is great for it. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Tallon.
You, Chair Steck. Andy, thank you for your work. Do great work, and thank you for the report. I have a couple of questions, but I'll just do one and a comment and let others continue. Question, I really appreciated your reporting of outcome data. And when I was looking at the information that you provided in the written report, I noticed that, the focus on recidivism among juveniles, and was kind of curious, we know that when we count those kinds of things, we pay attention to them and we manage them. And what's really important is getting those numbers to the people that have the ability to affect those outcomes. And I'm wondering who sees that data on the recidivism. It's great data, and the key, of course, is who sees it and who pays attention to it. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Sure, I can. Yeah, and it's a good point. Like I said, this is not necessarily something that SCAO asks for with their reporting, but we obviously think it's important to do. I will tell you that again, obviously, your group sees it, the commissioners see it, all of our judges see it. And importantly, our probation officers and the people that work in that field see it, and so that we're paying attention and that sort of thing. And also, we share it with the state of Michigan. In Michigan, for many of our juvenile services, the state will participate in the cost, will actually reimburse us the cost of some of the things that we're doing. So we make sure that we share that with them to make sure that they understand that they are getting their money's worth, so to speak. So those are the ones that that systemically we make sure that we share with.
And I appreciate that. That's what I had hoped that you would say, because that really is ideally the way our performance measurements should work. That we should be measuring those kinds of outcomes, and people should be constantly looking at them, and a variety of people who are involved in affecting those outcomes. So thanks for doing that work, for focusing on those outcomes and making sure everybody's focusing on that data. And just a quick comment related to the detention center, and I think it's been quite a while since the funding was approved for that work. It's gone on a long time, and years, I couldn't even tell you how many years it's been since I had a tour of the center and got to see what was bad and what needed to happen. And I've been wishing for many years now to be able to see the results of all that work. So I want to encourage you. I've encouraged others to make some sort of tour available when that becomes practical, so we can actually see what's happened there. Probably too late for me to see it, but I think it would be helpful for commissioners to see what's all the work that's gone on there. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And I agree completely. And yeah, obviously with, the pandemic, we've been trying to keep as many people out as possible. But yeah, it's definitely something on our minds. I believe Wayman wanted to host a department directors meeting there, but obviously the pandemic kind of threw that. But yeah, we definitely want to, I guess, show the building off, for lack of a better term.
Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments or questions? I don't see any, so I'll take the opportunity. First of all, thank you for the report, Andy, and also thank you for the written report. If commissioners have not gone through that, there's a significant volume of additional information that you put in there that is helpful for us to get a good sense on where things are. I also want to really acknowledge you and the system for that performance dealing with our juveniles. A 10% recidivism rate, as you say, is a significant accomplishment. And that means basically 90% of those that are going through the system, I guess, are not recidivizing. They're not coming back. So that is exactly what we want to try to accomplish with that. So kudos to you and to everyone for that accomplishment. A couple of questions. First of all, of course, all of us are having our love-hate relationship with Zoom right now, and some of us have become addicted and don't want it to go away, and some of us can't wait for it to go away. I suspect, in my personal experience, that our circuit courts are finding some functions that work even more effectively through Zoom, and certainly more efficiently. And more efficiently usually means less cost to the system and to the participants. Have you already identified some areas in the system that that might be using Zoom on an ongoing basis, even when we get past this?
Yeah, I think we definitely have. We have pretty much bi-weekly meetings with judges to kind of discuss, what's going well, what isn't going well with Zoom. And as you said, each judge has some things that they love. Each judge has some things that they don't love so much. There are, I think there are a lot of hearings, and again, part of this is the operator on both sides. But that are doing well. I mean, I think with our civil docket, I think we've been pretty pleased with that. The criminal docket, not so much. It's a little more difficult to, to do sentencings and that sort of thing. Trials, when we've got, a lot of parties involved. I mean, that's very difficult on Zoom. We can do it, but it's very difficult. But, a review hearing for a juvenile where, a parent works, rather than having everyone take a day off work, drive to court and that sort of thing, that's something that we can do over Zoom. And I think we've had a lot of success, and it's made a lot of sense to do it. So yeah, there really are. And it's a good question that you've asked. We are kind of doing it. Obviously, some judges see more benefits than others in certain parts of it, but it is something that we do have ongoing discussions. And yeah, I think it will be part of our, it's in some way, it will be part of our lives going forward here in the court, because it really provides, in my opinion, it helps a lot of these parties that, yeah, they have to come to court, but boy, rather than take a whole day off, pay for parking and wait your turn, if we can just kind of get it on Zoom, I mean, it's been a nice benefit for those types of things.
Yeah, obviously some things in-person jury trials have to be in person, and some other hearings are really best done in person, but a lot, particularly on pretrial processes, not only does it make it easier, but in the civil side of the equation, it also yields significant cost savings to litigants.
Sure.
So the cost of sending a lawyer for 2 hours over for a pretrial conference versus 10 minutes on the Zoom is quite significant. So
yeah, for sure.
So I encourage you to continue to look for those ways that we can learn our lessons from this less fortunate experience. The other thing I wanted to encourage is electronic filing. I know we've talked about it over and over again, and I think we all know it's going to happen, and it's going to be the way of the future. That's how it ought to go. It's for some of us, it's a little frustrating. It hasn't been completely accomplished yet. So just continue to press forward on that process. And if there's anything that you think we need to do differently, or anything you need from the commission, certainly let us know if that's something that we can help facilitate that with. And then the last thing I was noting, and I think that you said this, the domestic filings are notably up, if I recall. At least they were in 2019. Am I right about that?
Did you ask for domestic violence or?
Oh, just domestic filings, divorce filings.
Domestic violence. Yes, they are. One of the big that we include in domestic filings is our personal protection orders. And those have skyrocketed. So divorces themselves are, I'm looking at my little cheat sheet here on the stats. Divorces themselves are pretty level, actually down probably in 2019 over the previous 5-year average by a few percent, but pretty level. But our personal protection orders have really increased a lot. So that kind of inflates that number from time to time.
Okay. Well, again, I was going to follow up with that, encouraging giving us more information on this new program that helps or assists in sort of non-represented use of that system. And it's an expensive process. Divorces can be very expensive for litigants, and so it's always great to see us looking for ways that we can be more user friendly.
Yep.
All right. My going on has apparently yielded some more questions. Commissioner Talon, did you still have another question?
It did. Thank you, Chair. And you kind of took most of the thunder of it. I was wondering also about the remote hearings and just wanted to encourage, as those are evaluated, that we look at the good and the bad also for the citizens that use the system. And it sounds like that is happening, and sensitivity to both the attorneys that are involved, but also the citizens and how they access the system, and the cost savings, the time savings for them. We have a tendency, I think, in government to look at how it benefits government or is good or bad for government, but just want to encourage us to be looking at all of those users of the system. And it sounds like that's happening. I also wanted to acknowledge that as I was around the state on the governor's task force on pretrial and jails, the compliments that I heard about the pretrial system in Kent County and how that's been a model, and the great work that's happened and the great outcomes that have come from that. And I'm embarrassed to say who knew, because apparently a lot of people did, but people recognized it around the state, and I didn't realize what a model we were. So I just want to acknowledge that, recognize it publicly, the good work that's happening here. So thank you.
Thank you for doing that. Tim Boheis, who kind of manages that unit for the court, has he's one that is brought to Lansing and seen as an expert. And yeah, he's done a great job. Thank you for mentioning it.
All right. I don't see any other hands up. So again, Andy, thank you for your report. Thank you for your work. Pass our gratitude on to the rest of the judges and the staff there. So we appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, let's move to, we have one more performance measurement review this morning, and from another specter of the court system, Dan Wojtek is here to give us the friend of the court performance measurement review. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning. I'm trying to set this up myself. Natasha stands at the ready to help me out. And I'm not seeing what I did when I practiced. Let me see. Oh, maybe Natasha, can you put it up on the screen for me, please?
No problem.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm Dan Wojtek. I've been director of the Friend of the Court for 5 years, and I've been with the court for 22 years. Go to the next slide, please. Just a little information about our office. We have 14 departments, 102 employees, approximately 39,000 cases. We deal in high volume. Each year we process over 14,000 orders. We conduct over 3,000 support reviews, receive over 84,000 phone calls, typically have over 3,000 bench warrants, and we schedule over 8,000 support contempt hearings. We were created way back in 1919 by statute. We're tasked with the following duties. We enforce child support orders. We enforce custody and parenting time orders. We review the amount of child support consistent with the Michigan child support formula. We investigate custody and parenting time issues and make written recommendations to the court. We provide mediation services for custody, parenting time, and child support issues. Next slide. And this presentation will follow the format you are now accustomed to. Next. And the focus, of course, is on the board's priorities and goals of economic prosperity, high quality of life, excellence in service delivery, inclusive participation, and effective communications. Next, please. Our mission is to serve the court and the families of Kent County to ensure children are supported both financially and emotionally. Many know us for our enforcement of child support, but we also support children's emotional well-being by investigating and making recommendations to the court on issues of custody and parenting time. Next, please. We have 6 department goals that I want to present that fit nicely with the board's priorities. Economic prosperity is promoted by maintaining significant federal funding, 66% of our operation. High quality of life is promoted through professional analysis of the statutory best interest factors for child custody and parenting time investigations, resulting in orders that provide stability for children. Excellence in service delivery is realized when we conduct timely child support reviews and enter orders onto our state computer system called MISIS quickly and accurately. Excellence in service delivery is also realized when we identify and enforce cases where there is non-compliance and utilize technology to assist in that. Inclusive participation is gained through community outreaches and an active citizen advisory committee. And effective communication is promoted by responding to calls and inquiries about operations and specific case information quickly and accurately. Next, please. First goal is maximize grant funding and revenue opportunities. Just to give you a broad review of our funding, as I mentioned, federal government funds 66% of our operation through Title 4D of the Social Security Act. We have a 5-year contract with Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. That contract provides for certain contract performance standards that we need to meet. And I outlined that in the Visio report that you have, so I won't really get into that right now. I just want to note that we exceeded the standards in fiscal year 2019 and 2020. We receive incentives for collections on current support charges and collection on arrears. The federal goal is 80% to collect support that's currently charging 80% of cases within arrearage. And the above graph, or this graph shows our yearly incentives in this area. We also receive medical incentives, 15% of the collections on state-owned medical, and this funds our benchmark department. Next slide, please. Second goal, provide stability for children through custody and parenting time investigations referred by the court and through alternative dispute resolution. I listed 3 of our main objectives in this area. The first being 90% of all court referrals for custody and parenting time investigations will be completed within 90 days. That 90-day deadline was set by our court. In 2019, we conducted 634 evaluations for custody and parenting time, with 95% completed within 90 days. Year to date, 2020 through October, we're at 89%. We get these referrals to investigate from the court when it determines at a hearing that proper cause has been shown or there's a change in circumstances to review the issue of custody and parenting time. The second objective, 90% of mediations will be scheduled within 60 days. That's for court-ordered mediations. We're really gravitating more now towards walk-in mediations where there's no need for a prior court hearing or an order to get it to us. And we don't have to have both parties contact us in writing so that we schedule that in. I'm not aware of any other county that does this. Pre-COVID, we were available first come, first serve on Tuesday mornings and Thursday afternoons. We're now available online through online appointments, and the meeting is held virtually. And the third objective in this area, 90% of all parenting time complaints will be resolved without a contempt hearing. We resolved most parenting time complaints without a hearing. We actually received in 2019, 2,089 complaints. 658 were considered valid, and valids when there's a underlying specific court order and there was an attempt to exercise the parenting time. Last year, 87% of the complaints were resolved without a show cause hearing. Next slide, please. And these 2 graphs show that we're exceeding our objective last couple of years on the custody and parenting time investigations, and we're coming close to our objective on resolving parenting time complaints without a hearing. Next, please. Third goal is assist the court in entering timely and appropriate child support orders. Entering timely and appropriate orders means conducting reviews quickly and based on ability to pay. Also includes placing orders once entered by the court on the MISIS system quickly. The 90-day deadline to complete the reviews is self-imposed. The statute gives us actually 120. In 2019, we conducted 3,041 support reviews, 99.5% of those within 90 days. COVID did set us back a bit this year due to the workers having to shift to working remotely. There were fewer court referrals because hearings weren't held, and objection hearings were significantly delayed. I think it's interesting to receive fewer requests for review from the parents because many of them actually went on unemployment and saw an increase in income. I thought that was interesting. Our order processing department last year processed 14,803 orders, and that was 97.5% within 3 days. Next slide, please. Fourth goal, assist the court by readily identifying and commencing action on those cases in need of child support enforcement and utilize innovative solutions to address noncompliance. The first two objectives, as I mentioned, the federal goal for collections is 80%. We aspire to that. Our collections on current obligations in fiscal 2019 was 75.95%. In fiscal 2020, 75.06%. We're actually, we come in second among the 10 peer counties that we compare ourselves to. On collection on cases in the arrears, fiscal year 2019, we were at 79.8%, came close to the 80. In fiscal year 2020, we actually came out to 85.55%, and we remained first among our 10 peer counties on that measure. It's interesting that collections have been maintained in fiscal year 2020, and it really jumped up on arrears collection, and that's due to withholding against stimulus payments and unemployment compensation. Our court really didn't want interception of stimulus payments. We didn't really want that either, nor did the Friendly Court Association that we're a part of, but the feds really imposed that, and there was really no choice in the matter. And even the underperforming counties, they did really well this year because of those stimulus payments and unemployment. Just want to give you a little bit of background about our enforcement strategy. We try to connect with the payers immediately when a new case is open. We have a full-time staff person in our early engagement program who will reach out to parties in a new case, explain the order to them, let them know about our services, and try to establish a good rapport early on. We also have the Resources for Parents program, formerly known as Responsible Parents program. We changed the name. And that's to assist payers who find it difficult to comply with the support order due to the obstacles they face. They may have a criminal history or they have lack of employment. RPP partners with 21 employers and 37 agencies, especially one agency, 70 times 7 Life Recovery. They assist us in helping payers with criminal backgrounds to find a job. The show cause contempt hearing is one of our primary enforcement tools. We first screen for, before we schedule these, we screen for a payer's ability to pay. In 2019, we scheduled 8,372 of these hearings. 2020, COVID had a negative impact because we can't do in-person hearings. In October, we started doing limited virtual show cause hearings, but we can only schedule around 40 of those a week. The third objective is that 85% of the warrants handled by FOC deputies will be resolved without arrest. In 2019, we resolved 1,303 warrants at a rate of 95% without arrest. So that well exceeds the 85% measure that we have. And they collected $665,580. That's just our deputies. We've had probably half of that this year because they have limited in-person contact with payers. Next slide, please. And these two slides just compare the years on the collections of current support and also collection of arrears. Next slide. And this looks at the percentage of warrants handled by the deputies without arrest. That measure was set by the task force, the community engagement task force. Many of you remember 85% resolved without arrest. And 2017, 2018, 2019, we exceeded that measure. And the deputies continued to be in plain clothes, unmarked vehicles with instructions not to pursue if a payer flees solely because they have a friend of the court warrant. Next slide, please. fifth goal is to be responsive to community concerns about friend of the court personnel and operations, and to educate and engage those who have a friend of the court case through effective community outreach. Our first objective here, 100% of grievances will be answered within 30 days. The grievance process concerning FOC operations and personnel is provided by statute. In 2019, we only had 4 grievances. Year to date 2020, we've had 10, but 4 of them are non-grievable issues. For instance, someone didn't like what a judge had ordered, and that really isn't part of the grievance process. We have a citizen advisory committee, as you may know, only 2 in the whole state, Kent and Macomb. And the CAC, they review all of our grievances and we discuss them at our bi-monthly meetings. And they're also interested in our policies, procedures, and customer service. Another objective under this goal, 100% of monthly outreach to at least 3 community groups, agencies, and facilities that reach payers who are homeless, incarcerated, or in need of special services. In 2019, we held 64 monthly outreaches. We go to Michigan Works, Urban Family Ministry, Strong Fathers, Hispanic Center, Guiding Light Mission, 70x7 Life Recovery, Kent County Correctional Facility, Bellamy Creek Prison, and the Salvation Army. And the purpose is to inform the services and be more accessible to the public. Our outreach has stopped in March due to COVID, but we continuously try to update our website to give the best possible information and timely information to everyone. And we've developed some online services. Folks can meet with their case manager, make an appointment, and meet virtually. We've got walk-in mediation that I'll talk a little bit more in a minute. And you can set an appointment to make a payment. Well, we did before we went back to phase 1, but we'll reinstate that again as quick as we can. Next slide, please. This slide on the left just shows that we're consistent in answering grievances each year within 30 days. And the second graph shows the number of outreach meetings we have each year. Next, please. The 6th and final goal, deliver exceptional customer service by answering inquiries promptly and accurately. The objective is to resolve 75% of calls to our client information services department within 5 minutes. In 2019, we had 84,277 calls. 81.9% of those were answered within 5 minutes. We've had some rocky spells with COVID, of course. For a while, the phones had to be shut down. We didn't have the operators here. They've now been deployed to work remotely from home with cell phones. It's a lot different than what we're used to. Folks will call in and they'll leave their information for a call back, or they can go online and set an appointment for us to call them. But we're trying to keep communication open, answer questions as quick as we can. We've encouraged two-way communication through MI Support. It's a website folks can go to look at information for the child support case. It's like an email system. And that ramped up quite a bit since COVID. And we also encourage regular emails. I would also note that most calls are resolved without transfer. In 2019, 91.5% were resolved without transferring to somebody else. Next slide, please. On significant accomplishments, I want to point out our walk-in mediations. 2019 was the first full year. It was created by my assistant, Tracy Shanko, in our ADR unit. And I don't really know of any other county doing this. You may ask, what are walk-in mediations? Statute provides for court-ordered mediations where parties can request and be scheduled in. This delays a speedy resolution of problems that probably need immediate attention. So we set aside time on Tuesday mornings and Thursday afternoons for parents just to show up on a first-come, first-served basis. And that was pre-COVID. Since COVID, they're now available online appointments, and those mediations are conducted remotely. The big advantage of walk-in versus court-ordered is there's no need for a court hearing or an order to send it to us. It saves many weeks for issues that need to be addressed timely. In 2019, we conducted 142 walk-in mediations that resulted in 110 settlements, a success rate of 78%. And I'm sure this is going to gain more traction for resolving disputes. Next slide, please. The second significant accomplishment I want to point out is that as of 2019, the warrant department is fully staffed. And this was really my primary goal when I came back to the front of the court 5 years ago to rebuild it. Prior to 2016, we had to rely on area law enforcement agencies to arrest on our warrants. Some counties outside of Kent wouldn't lodge anyone on our warrants because they knew we wouldn't have anyone to go to their county to transfer them back to Kent. We now have a great team in place and a wonderful relationship with the Kent County Sheriff's Department and other law enforcement agencies. It's not only have we increased collections, our deputies are trained to help delinquent payers understand their options and resolve their warrants, of course, without being arrested. And it saves the county a lot of money by not having to lodge these individuals. That program was strengthened early on through the specially appointed Community Engagement Task Force. And that made recommendations of our program that we have implemented, and the FOC's third annual report outlining our implementation can be found on the website at Access Kent. Next slide, please. Just look ahead. One thing we're kicking around is an arrears clinic. We have a lot of cases where the non-custodial parent has a tremendous amount of child support arrearages. It may have grown because maybe the order was too high, or they stopped paying because they were incarcerated, and a timely motion wasn't filed to get that stopped. Or prior to 2010, there used to be surcharges. At one point, it was like interest, 8% per year per annum. And so some of these cases, half the arrears is surcharge. So what we can do is invite these folks in, and this might be part of the Resources for Parents program. This will be a resource for payers to have us review their account. If they're state owed monies, they may qualify for partial or full discharge depending on their financial situation. If the case predates 2010, we can help them file a motion for a payment plan to discharge surcharges. That's provided by statute. They can ask for a withholding adjustment from the paychecks if too much is being taken out. If they face obstacles like unemployment, we'll enroll them in the Resources for Parents program. We can make arrangements to get driver's licenses back, and we can facilitate account adjustments for payees who want to waive part or all of the arrears owed to them. Sometimes the custodial parents, they have a good partnership with the other parent, even though they're not living together. And maybe the other parent watches the kids a lot, and so they don't want those arrears to be collected. Many different reasons for that. And finally, we just want to get through COVID like everybody else. We're going to continue the status quo of employees working intermittently from home and at the office. We have about 20% right now that come and go out of the office. The rest are at home. We deployed majority of our desktop computers to people's homes, and others have laptops. Eventually, I want to restart the in-person show cause contempt hearings for non-payment of support, but that's at such time as the court allows. That's a big priority. We want to commence increased in-person contact with the FOC deputies and non-compliant payers of support. We want to continue to explore how we can increase services to the public. Since COVID, we put in place remote meetings with parents to conduct evaluations and mediations, online scheduling meetings with case managers, remote show cause hearings, online scheduling to make a payment at the office, online appointment to receive a call back from a customer service rep. We started using DocuSign, which is a great way to get orders entered. And we also have a drop box for documents on the first level of the building near our security station, so folks can just drop things off. And happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Dan, for your report, for everything that's going on there. Any questions from commissioners or comments? I don't see any right now, but Dan, if you could maybe just talk a little bit more about the walk-in mediation. I'm not entirely sure if that's understood. This is a process in which either the parents can walk in order to ask that a dispute with the other parent can be addressed. And I assume it doesn't take both of them to agree to walk in, but either one can go in.
Well, no, it does take both of them. For a mediation, you'll need both parents, and and it's a confidential process. If they both agree to show up, this is pre-COVID, if they show up on Tuesday morning or Thursday afternoon, first come, first serve, we'll take them in, we'll talk to them and try to settle whatever the dispute is. Currently, they can both log in to the website and they can both agree to schedule an appointment with the mediator, and then we'll hold it remotely with them by phone or by Zoom.
So, so that requires them to agree beforehand to go to this mediation. But so if one parent has a dispute, can they walk in and say, I'd like to get the other parent to agree? And does the walk-in mediation process encourage reaching out then and getting both of them to participate?
Yeah, right. Presently, we have information that they both have to agree to be part of the process. So that's the first requirement.
But you could facilitate that a bit, couldn't you? By encouraging.
I would say so.
Yeah.
I would say so. Yeah.
So the other thing on that, you were listening when we commented a bit with Andy, Zoom has taught us a number of things and ways of being more user-friendly and reaching out and having more opportunities to solve those kinds of problems. I just encourage you to look for how can we do that in a way that helps facilitate the use of this system or any of your systems to resolve disputes. Heaven knows there's lots of them out there, and being able to catch those before they brew into full-time motions and costly disputes is a great strategy.
I think it's especially helpful because when we do custody investigations, before COVID, we'd have to have both parents in the office and talk to them for our pre-investigation. And sometimes you have domestic violence, and it might be better that they not be in the same room. So I can see us continuing that with Zoom.
Yeah, good. I think Commissioner Hennessy has her hand up.
I do. Thank you. I'm impressed with the way all of our departments are adapting and responding under these COVID situations. I was noting in your written report that you have some challenges with your customer service representatives. And I was wondering if you could elaborate more in terms of, how people are reaching them and the difficulties that might be encountered.
Yes, thank you. Yes, early on, we did have to shut the phones down for a bit. We only had like 10 people here just to get done some things that had to get done. But our telephone system isn't really adapted for folks to work at home. So we've had those customer service reps, their phone operators, coming in most of the time since this pandemic started. However, that department got hit pretty hard with a lot of absences, some of it COVID related. Some folks had children in school or they may have become ill themselves. So what we've done in the last month is we deployed those folks home with their desktop computers, and we got cell phones for them. And we set up online, we set up a voicemail where when folks come in, they need to leave their information. We'll put it on a spreadsheet, and the operators will go to that spreadsheet, get the information, call these folks back within one day. So it's not the best situation, but it's what we've got right now till I can get those folks back here.
Okay, so if I could follow up. So if I'm someone needing services, if I go to your office, not knowing, assuming it's open, but not knowing, what happens? I mean, who greets me? Is there somebody there? Or you mentioned that there's a drop box for papers, but
Yep.
Is there otherwise a way in which I can talk to a person, or what's happening within the office and the greeting people?
Right, our in-person services aren't being handled right now. Our information window is closed. We try not to have people in the lobby or to come in to make payments because we're in phase 1 right now with the court. But we have all the information on our website, and we have cards available if they come into the building at the security station. It gives all the information they need to get a hold of us and what online services we have. And frequently, my number's out there in the lobby, so I'm frequently being pulled out there anyways to talk to people. I'm here every day. I haven't missed since this started. So they'll get through to us. It'll be okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions or comments for Dan? All right, if not, I don't see any others. So again, thank you, Dan, to you and your department for all your hard work and for continuing to be innovative and attentive to how we can be more user-friendly and reduce what's otherwise a pretty traumatic and difficult, stressful situation for many of the people you deal with. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right. Let's move to the next item of business, which is the appointment of various committee members, boards, commissions. Wayman, will you introduce the resolution?
Sure. This is a request to the Board of Commissioners to appoint various members to the boards, commissions, and committees for 2020-21. Board of Commissioners on an annual basis appoints county residents and commissioners to boards, commissions, and committees in accordance with applicable statutes or standing rules of the county. Interest in serving on various boards, commission, committees was solicited via Access Kent. Our website, over 137 applications were received for 48 vacancies. 3 interview teams consisting of Commissioner Vonk, Hennessy, Teal, Commissioner Steck, Coleman, and Skaggs, Commissioners Ponstein, Talon, and Melton reviewed all applications and conducted interviews for the various vacancies. The recommended nominees to fill vacancies are noted on the appointed boards, commissions, and committees listing, which is included in the packet.
So is there a motion to approve the nominations and appointments?
Einstein.
Moved by Commissioner Ponstein. Is there support?
Second by Skaggs.
Supported by Commissioner Skaggs. Any discussion or comments? I don't see any. So I will just again thank all of the commissioners on the committee for participating and providing the backup investigation that we've undertaken to vet all of these candidates, all of the applicants, and arrive at these recommendations. And so thank you for your work. With that, I will ask Pam to, oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Ponstein, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Chair Steck. No, I just wanted to add too, I want to thank all the people that applied. I think you said 147 people put in applications. So, not everyone can get appointed, but we had a good cross section of people to get people that are well qualified to serve in these spots. And also want to thank the staff and the administration of getting everything ready so it's easier for us to do the interviews and make our selection process in a timely manner. So thank you all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Talon.
You, Chair, I just want to note that when I started on the commission many years ago, this process happened very much behind the scenes. It wasn't very well advertised. There were basically the executive committee, which didn't meet in public meetings at the time, made recommendations, and I just appreciate the significantly more open public process and the work that's done to get the word out there to encourage folks to apply. I think it's really had a significant impact on the quality of the boards and commissions that do significant work here in Kent County. So just an acknowledgement that we're on the right track here, I think.
Yeah, thank you for that, Commissioner Talon. I agree with you 100%. Commissioner Hennessy.
Thank you. I agree that it was really interesting, the number of people who applied, the strengths that they would bring to every position that we were interviewing for. It was really very impressive. And it was very interesting work for the 3 of us on my little subcommittee here. I have just one question in terms of process. This particular resolution mixes up the citizen appointments, which we worked on with our 3 subcommittees, with some of the commissioner appointments. Is that normal? Do we usually do it that way, or is it handled separately?
No, that's correct. That's typical how we handle it, Commissioner Hennessy.
Okay,
Yes.
just asking. I don't remember from year to year always. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, any other comments or questions? I will, I don't see any other, but I just also add a footnote that while yes, we had some very great candidates here, and at least if the other teams had the same experience that we had in our team, it was difficult in some of these circumstances to make these decisions, and that's a testament to the quality of candidates and applicants we had across the board. There are, however, I think, and Pam can correct me if I have that wrong, but I believe there are still 3 positions for which we are continuing to cultivate candidates, and we'll have to continue to work on that. These are some unique boards that require specialized qualifications, so that will take a little more work, and we'll have to come back later to fill those. If there are no other hands up or questions or comments, Pam, go ahead and do the roll call.
Sure. Commissioner Hennessy,
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman,
Yes.
Melton,
Yes.
Commissioner Ponstein,
Yes.
Commissioner Teal,
Yes.
Commissioner Skaggs,
Yes.
Commissioner Talon,
Yes.
Commissioner Vunk,
Yes.
Chair Steck.
Yes,
That motion passes.
excellent. That will then go to the full board. Next item is miscellaneous. If any commissioner has a miscellaneous item.
Chair Stack?
Yes, Commissioner Melton.
Okay. Commissioner Melton. I would like to publicly acknowledge my dismay, my horror at the events that took place outside of our Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson's house on Sunday. I have a 4-year-old granddaughter, and I can't tell you how it completely and totally took my breath away. The death threats that have happened to those in Georgia, other places are horrific, but when it is in your own back door, it is absolutely impossible to ignore. And so I actually spent all day yesterday calling. I didn't know what else to do so that my voice would be heard as much as possible. I called over 50, 60 representatives, congresspersons who are in the state of Michigan, and quite frankly, mostly talked with their answering machines or their whoever answered the phone. All almost to the point of pleading with them, and I am going to do this with my commissioners, fellow commissioners. We have got to call this out as leaders for what it is. It is evil. It is vicious. No 4-year-old child should ever have to be in their safe home, with persons outside their home with guns and rifles. It should not take place. And it is past time. There have been 33 lawsuits that absolutely the process needs to be followed. I get that. One was given any merit. It is time to accept whether we voted for or against, are happy or not, that in January there is going to be a change of presidency. And until and I really am reaching out to those of my Republican peers, until we reach out and say the process has been served, I can't imagine what the next step for these persons who are evil and vicious. Are we going to wait until someone is killed? As of 3 or 4 days ago, only 12% of the Republican Congress persons, if you will, in the United States had recognized or said anything to our President-elect Biden, it is time for those other 88% to stand up, speak up, and say, it's done, we're sad, but we will welcome you, because that is, if we don't have that in the United States, I don't know what we have. And thank you for letting me speak. What Jocelyn Benson, our Secretary of State in Michigan, experienced and her 4-year-old child should never, ever take place. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any others? I don't see any others. And certainly, I think most of us can share concern about whether it is reasonable or unreasonable protest or objection to what is going on in the public sector, where that takes the form of direct engagement at one's home. That is always a problematic situation that we need to get a handle on. I will say that I had my lesson on that early on in my career with folks opposed to a certain position, also camping out in front of my house, and having to have police called to provide security. It's not appropriate in any circumstance. So one hopes that we are, as a society, learning from that and hold ourselves to a higher standard. Anything else? If not, I do have one additional item, and that is just a reminder that we raised this issue last time about thoughts that any of you may have with respect to how our performance measurement process is going, and whether you have suggestions on how we might improve that. Certainly would encourage you to do that over the course of the next week or so that we can conduct an analysis, and if there's any recommendations for changes, we can go ahead and do that. With that, if there is nothing else, we are adjourned.
Have a good day.